The audacity. Years ago, before Trump was elected the first time, when he came on the campaign trail and he would say the most outlandish things about his opponents, things that everyone with sense knew were not true. It was really surprising to me because, I've seen political campaigns run ever since, I was a teenager when I started paying attention to them. And of course, that there are smear campaigns, there are, attacks on the opponent, and they try to paint them in the worst light possible. But generally, there's some grain of truth in those attacks. But this was the first time I had ever seen a candidate just make up stuff that you couldn't even figure out where he got the idea. Like, how did you come up with that? Like, where did that come from? And this same candidate who would say the most ridiculous, insulting, rude, obnoxious, offensive things about everyone, women, different racial groups, people of different backgrounds, different social groups, different socioeconomic groups, and his opponents. This same person would say that people were being mean to him and people should be nicer to him and be more respectful of him. And of course, it just again, I'm stuttering because even now, having seen it for years, it still flabbergasts me that he does this. But I've gotten to a different point now because after his presidency, and now that we're still in the Biden presidency and there's a new presidential campaign being run, I actually made a connection because over the last several years, I've seen some men on social media do the exact same thing that Trump does. They will respond to someone that they feel is not being as respectful or as submissive or as deferential, basically someone who hasn't put them on a pedestal, with the craziest, most outlandish accusations. And you're wondering, where did they get that from? And then you're scratching your head because these men will accuse that person who is the only one in the situation who's dealing with reality and talking about facts of making things up, of being delusional, of being mean. And they are all the things that they are accusing the other person of. They're projecting all these things onto the other person when they are the example of it. And so now it makes me wonder, is it entitlement? Is it some kind of, the social scientists I've heard call some men king babies, because they think the world is supposed to revolve around them. And they have this victim mentality. They have this skewed sense of justice. And they just throw these temper tantrums just like some spoiled babies would. And they don't seem to really have absorbed reality because, of course, a baby only has a very limited perception of what reality is, and might get a lot of things confused and be confused by what they're seeing and hearing and experiencing. So, again, it just really kind of made me laugh, and it kind of surprised me that it seems like Trump has given some men courage to say the things that they probably might have thought in the past, but they just didn't have the courage to say them. And he gives them that courage. They look at him and they see him getting whatever benefits he gets from what he says and does. And somehow they think that they can do the same. And so it's just, it really is eye-opening to realize that he's not one of a kind, but his mentality, his behavior, his entitlement is a lot more common than it used to be anyway. So it's just some food for thought. May you walk in synergy. The audacity. Years ago, before Trump was elected the first time, when he came on the campaign trail and he would say the most outlandish things about his opponents, things that everyone with sense knew were not true. It was